Hello, my name is Tim. Welcome to Tim Burbage Reads, and today I'm going to be talking to you about a book review for Divided: Why We're Living in an Age of Walls by Tim Marshall. So, this is first of all, this is the revised and updated edition, which I did not know. This is a non-fiction book, and it's Tim Marshall has written, the only other book I read was Prisoners of Geography, which is kind of how hard physical geography impacts how the world politics has been made and why some people have and some people have not. This is all about walls and divisions and why we're divided. And part of it feels incredibly relevant now. Part of it already feels dated. So this was published in 2018, so this is 7 years old. The first sentence of the introduction is, "The border wall between Israel and the West Bank is among the most forbidding and hostile in the world." Pretty topical. Funny, the last book I read by him also opened with why Ukraine is likely to be invaded by Russia, kind of before it happened. So this is interesting. But then we get taken into 8 different situations involving walls and divisions. So the first one is China and their Great Wall. We cover Israel-Palestine. We cover the Middle East, which is kind of not just Israel and Palestine, but also Iran, Iraq, Kuwait. We cover the Indian subcontinent. We cover Africa, which is an interesting one. We cover Europe, and then we cover the UK. One thing we also do, chapter 2 is called Build That Wall, USA, and it's all about the president at the time trying to build a wall between the USA and Mexico. That feels like a million years ago. It really does, with what's happened since. So that felt very outdated, and I don't think that wall got built in the end. The other chapters go into about, physical barriers between people. The Africa section is quite interesting because it then goes into a use case of gated communities and people building walls between neighbours. And by building a gated community, you then create a target because people know that the people within that area are more well off and worthy of robbing. This I thought was okay. I thought this was pretty good. It was interesting, looking at kind of global politics through a particular lens. There was, the thing is it was quite depressing to read because it's all about why we're separate why it's us versus them in so many situations. And that's not a nice thing to read, 300 odd pages about, really. This does go into politics. It's a big part of it. And it does look at both sides. It tries to be neutral, though I did find when you're talking about the UK and immigration, when you're talking about the Middle East, there's a lot about Muslims in here, and I felt like some of it was not in a positive light, and it felt like there was quite a lot of justification for people being far right and saying that, they're not racist, they're worried about their jobs and all this kind of stuff, and people's concern over being right-wing and being viewed as racist. I think since this was written, a lot of people have proved that they are not concerned about that when showing their views and showing who to vote for and showing who to support. So that felt a little bit icky for me. But it was an interesting look, interesting situations. I didn't know. I knew a little bit about, for example, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh. I knew a little bit, but I've learnt a lot more. I've learnt a lot about the Middle East in terms of Saudi Arabia and Kuwait and Iraq and Iran, and how the different branches of the Muslim faith have centered in different countries where different sects are in power and how they view others and how they view their neighbors and what their concerns are. I thought that was very interesting. Yeah, so some parts felt really dated, some parts were good. As with all non-fiction, it wasn't like it didn't pull me into the narrative. It was, here's a case study, here's a case study, here's a case study. And that's okay. So I think I gave this 4 stars. I didn't quite enjoy it as much as Prisoner's Geography. One thing is that there were no maps, or there was a few maps in here, but you know, there's a map of Bangladesh, for example. Still, the quality of the maps isn't great in this book, but it wasn't as big a hindrance as it was for Prisoners of Geography. He's got a book about flags. I love flags, so I'm going to read that at some point. Yeah, so let me know if you've read this book, what you thought, or what other good non-fiction around this theme you think would be good for me to read. Please comment below. Please give this video a like. I really appreciate it. Please subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you in the next one. Now, get out of my house!